from the shores of a country that's comprised of people from the world over. When you think about it, we are the people of the planet, and that's part of the genius of who we are as America. Will we be a country that stands for the press being described as the enemy of the people? Or will we remember the best defense against tyranny? I know, and Amy and I fear the moment when Ulysses and his sister and his little brother ask us those questions about what we did at this moment. And as Amy and I, in an effort to answer that question in the most positive, profound, and powerful way that we can possibly imagine, by traveling to each one of the 254 counties of Texas, getting together with our fellow Texans, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, not as independents, not even others, but as Americans, as Texans, as human beings. We have found that not only are we a match for this moment and for the pettiness and the paranoia and the smallness and the anxiety and the hatred and the outright bigotry that defines so much of the national conversation today. Not only can we stop those things, the walls, the bans, the indignity visited upon the highest office in this land, but we can replace it with something far more powerful and better, and something in the best traditions of this country. Yeah. When we think about the fact that right now we stand in the most city, in the most diverse states, in the most diverse country, the one that not only stops the practice of taking kids away from their ensuring that the hundreds of children who tonight are in the desert in Tornillo, Texas, who don't know when or even if they're going to see those parents who risked everything, including their lives, to bring them here to this country, seeking salvation and refuge and safety and asylum, as have countless generations before them. We can make sure that we reunite those families, but then we lead going forward, freeing dreamers from the fear of deportation, making them U.S. citizens today so that they can
Did you hear that?
Potential, and then ensuring that Republicans and Democrats, border communities like mine in El Paso, international cities like yours, the people of the Panhandle and West Texas and North and East Texas come together around an issue that we know and live and have experienced better than any other people of any other state. Inherently, it will involve compromise and coming to some kind of consensus. But when we don't allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good, when we meet the challenges of this country with an unstoppable determination, with courage, with imagination, and those were the watchwords of President Harry S. Truman, who reminded us that we are a people, we are a country, we are a nation not founded on fear, but on the best of us, not defined by the smallness or trying to scare one another about one another, but we will be defined by our ambitions, our aspirations, those things that we can only do when we decide that we will come together to accomplish them. It could be this community, which has a wealth of healthcare, the largest medical center, I think, on the planet today, but is at the epicenter of the least insured state in the United States of America. Water everywhere and not a drop to drink for the millions who do not have the ability tonight to see a doctor, to take their child to a therapist, to afford the medications that can improve or even save their lives. Having visited the Harris County Jail and learning there that it is the largest provider of mental health care services in the state of Texas today, that in that jail, 10,000 inmates, more inpatient mental health care beds than all of the public mental health care facilities in the state rolled up and combined, a state of 28 million people. And that's how we're treating them. People whose bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or depression has become so bad, the treatment so unavailable, that they are literally willing and desire to get arrested on purpose to have it treated. It costs you, the taxpayer in Harris County, more than $400 a day to keep someone locked up, to feed, to clothe, to house them, to prescribe the psychotropic medications that are prescribed to 27% of the inmates in that jail. It would cost you $14.50 to provide outpatient mental health care services here. So this state going from the least insured in the country to the one that leads the way on guaranteed high quality universal health care for every child, for every woman, to do. It's also the fiscally responsible thing to do. It ensures that every single one of us, and this is so important to me and to Amy and to our kids, every single one of us can live to our full potential, to be that person that we were intended to be in our lives, because we are now well enough to do that, to finish our education, to work that job, to be able to support our fellow citizens in our community, shoulder our fair share of the burden so it rests a little bit lighter on everyone else, raise that family, rock out in a band, run for office, do whatever you're supposed to do in your life. We want you to be well enough to do that. And this state, and again, it's not a Republican or a Democrat or a partisan value. It's just a human value. This could be the best of us in America. This state understands the consequences better than any other of failing to do that. This state that is losing people to diabetes, to the flu, life short or diminished, that could be lived, and folks could contribute to their maximum capacity, and who knows what they will do, the jobs that they will create, the art that they will produce, the quality of life that they will raise for all of us. I think about that in the same way that I think about some of the profound effects that we have experienced here in climate change. Perhaps no state, no people better than those in this room understand the consequences of climate change today. 58 inches of rain is the landfall record in recorded history in the continental United States of America. And it fell last year almost a year to the day. The year before that was the second hottest year on record for the planet. The year before that, the hottest year on record for the planet. We know, because the scientists, if we will listen to them, tell us that storms like Harvey will be more frequent, they will be more severe, they will be more intense. We will not be worried about investing in that third reservoir, which we need in Harris County. We won't be worried about helping people rebuild their homes, and they're still rebuilding their homes all throughout this community. People will no longer be able to live anywhere near the ocean that they live today. They won't be in Port Arthur or Rockport or Port Aransas or Goliad or Victoria or Houston or Beaumont, because human beings will not be able to live there in the same way that when we go to the Panhandle or the west or the north part of this state, and people say, it has not rained on my ranch since October of 2017, or I live on the same farm that my grandparents farmed, that my parents farmed, but what they planted no longer grows in this place. It's not that we must prepare for the climate to change. The climate is changing right now. Our ability to grow our own food, to clothe and feed not just the people of Texas in this country, but the world, is being undermined right now as we speak. We still have time, and let's mark each other's words at this moment. This is the window, though it's closing rapidly, to do the right thing. And not only does the state of Texas understand the consequences of climate change better than any other, Texas has the opportunity to lead on this better than any other people. We are number one in the country today in the generation of wind power. We could soon be number one in the generation of solar and geothermal. Not too far from here at Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, they are pioneering in the science of capturing the carbon that we're emitting and sequestering it back underground in the same deposits from which they first extracted oil 100 years ago. Some beautiful, poetic environmental justice coming full circle right now. Remembering that I am in Houston, Texas. We are also a proud oil and gas state. We have helped to make this country energy independent, and I say that as someone who is almost 46 years old and remembers the day of his senior year in high school when I was 18, when George H.W. Bush first announced military action in the country of Iraq. We have been there every single year, every successive presidential administration, 6 and counting since, with no definition of victory, no end in sight, and yet U.S. service members from this community whose lives are on the line there, and in Afghanistan, and in Syria, and in Libya, and Yemen, Somalia, and Niger. I never again want this country to depend on another region of the world for something so important to our lives as energy. And I'm grateful that Texas is leading the way. But I know that we can extract these resources, refine them, export them, share them in a far more responsible way that does not compromise economic growth, that does not jeopardize the jobs that we have here, but ensures that we can pass this planet on to the generations that follow, and that we do not warm this globe another 2 degrees Celsius, after which we lose it forever. Let's not be afraid of the future. Let's embrace it and do what we must at this moment right now. You all with me? Whatever it is, if it's criminal justice reform, which we faced head on in that Harris County jail, or when we listen to teachers who tell us about children in their classrooms or in the classrooms of other teachers who start that first year of kindergarten 10 months back in reading, 12 months back in mathematics, with precious little time to catch up. They're saying that we need to invest in universal pre-K for every single child. They're saying that we need to make sure that there are higher education options and that one arrest in your life does not consign you.
Hey. What arrest? What?
The inability to be able to get a job, the inability to qualify for a Pell Grant or a federally subsidized student loan. In other words, that it does not define you or your opportunities in life. We need to lead on criminal justice reform. We have the largest prison population on the face of the planet, disproportionately African American and Hispanic American. Again, it is unjust, it is immoral, and at $22,000 a year per inmate, this is not something that we can sustain much longer. We could lead the way. It's not going to be Democrats, right? It's not going to be Republicans. It's going to be all of us, and no people better than the people of Texas. Whatever it is that we want to do, I'm confident we can achieve it because of the way that we're running this race. We, with your help, have not accepted a dime of political action committee. No corporations, all people, and it seems to be working. If you measure it in the way that we've been able to raise money in the last quarter, Ted Cruz, with money from PACs, with those whose relationships he cultivated, traveling the country, running for president, going to every one of the 99 counties of Iowa, he raised $4.4 million. And he's already using that money in the most cynical way, which I hope, given the fact that it's been done so many times like this, we are now immune to it. Trying to scare you about me, about the other candidate, not describing the vision for where this state can lead this country. To that, $4.4 million used to try to tell you that I want to legalize heroin, or burn the American flag, or open our borders, or take your guns, or any of the boogeyman things that are supposed to scare you into staying at home or not voting for the other guy. To that $4.4 million, with an average contribution of just $33 in the last quarter, we raised $10.4 million. No one ever has to wonder, is Beto voting this way? Did he write that bill? Did he support that amendment because someone paid him to do that? Because someone's calling the tune that he's singing? No, it is the people of Texas, every single one of us, because we visited each one of the 254 counties of the state, just came off the road from 34 days straight, 6,800 miles, more than 100 town halls in places like Comanche and Hamilton and Corpus Christi and Muleshoe and Childress. We showed up in Lubbock and we had a town hall on the stage of the Cactus Theater, the same stage from which Buddy Holly played. From there we went up to Amarillo, we went to San Angelo, Abilene, Texas. So red you could see it glowing from outer space. We go to the Paramount Theater. It's our 4th town hall that we've held in the last 16 months in that community. The first one, maybe 20 people showed up to. This last one, 800 people came out. It's Democrats, it's everyone. And the work that we're all doing, the fact that we are showing up for everyone, everywhere, every single day, the doors that you have been knocking on, the texts that you've been sending out, the phone calls that you have been making are making the difference. Yes, it's in the turnout at these events. We just had 1,800 or 1,900 people at the Stampede a little bit earlier today, but it's also in the fact that the latest poll shows us down just 1 point. There are 60 days to go. And this one is totally on us, 100% up to us to decide. And listen, it's only going to get tougher the closer that we get. You've already seen, and I've described some of the ads that are coming our way, and the impulse, the instinct, and it's only human, is to stop and react or respond or be just as low, just as dirty, just as personal. I need your help and your commitment to stay focused on the future, on the goals that we want to achieve, on bringing all of us together. Thank you all. Thank you all for if I took a few questions or comments or suggestions or advice, which I'd be happy to do. Yes, sir.
Are you really Irish?
Yes.
So even if the Democrats way outperform this year, and I hope they do, it's still going to be divided government. And how do you plan to govern in that situation?
I asked when I was first sworn in to the Congress in January of 2013 to serve on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, which is a basement or a backwater or a punishment given to members who screwed up with their party leadership. Why is that? Because you think about who it is that we serve, 20 million veterans who put their lives on the line for this country, who bore the battle for the United States, going all the way back to World War II, as recently as last night in Afghanistan. It's because there are no political action committees, no corporations, no special interests served. You cannot raise money. You cannot move up the leadership ladder. You cannot get ready for that next election and raise the money necessary to be competitive, and therefore no one wants to be there. But as I ran for Congress, I met so many veterans and so many family members of veterans who told me about their inability to get into the VA and see a provider. And I then later learned that 20 veterans a day, every single day in this country, take their lives. And the majority of them have not been able to get into a VA or were unwilling to do so for whatever reason. We wrote a bill to expand access to mental health care for veterans. And I knew, and we hold a town hall in El Paso every single month, everyone's welcome, all comers, no holds barred, that if I came back and used as the excuse for not passing that bill that there's a Republican majority, that there's a Republican in the White House, I can't work with this guy, Donald Trump, my constituents would call bullshit on me, and they should. And so I found that Republican colleague with whom I could work, Mike Kaufman, who's in a vulnerable frontline seat in Colorado. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. We love the veterans that we serve every bit as much as the other. My party leadership pulled me aside and said, hey, I know you've been here for a while, but you still obviously don't understand how this place works. When you make this guy look good by working on a bill with him that's going to help veterans, it makes it harder for us to defeat him in the next election, to take him out and put one of our own in his place. And listen, Democrats want to do this for the most noble of intentions, as do Republicans. We want to enact the agenda that we ran for office for in the first place. But we weren't buying that, and we worked with Mike Kaufman. I compromised on the bill I had written. We made our argument to our colleagues on the floor of the House. Mike said, it's going to be more expensive, but this is a price worth paying. I said, there's got to be a consequence for some of those veterans who have an other than honorable discharge, but that consequence cannot be their life. And our colleagues voted on it. It passed 435 to 0. Signed law by President Trump, a man with whom I agree on almost nothing. But find the common ground on this important piece of legislation. I want that to serve as an example for us, for Texas, on how we bridge the divide, the petty differences, the small stuff, the partisanship. Just get that shit out of the way and focus on what it is we want to do for the people that we care about and that we serve. 9% of Americans approve of Congress. I'm still looking to meet one of those 9%. It's a reflection not of the people who serve, because they're decent women and men for the most part. It is a function of how dysfunctional that institution has become at this moment. And I think, and I know, when we win an election by the people, free of PACs and corporations and special interests, when we're not running to represent Democrats, but to represent Texans and Americans, that will be part of the path to working on some of these other issues that I've raised and that you came out for here tonight. So thank you for asking.
Hi, Beto. Good Good to see you. Norset in the house. Hi. So I wanted to ask you, once in office, like I know you're from El Paso, so you're very familiar with the Mexican American constituency. But how are you going to support Mexican Americans, Chicanos, Latinos, Hispanics, however we want to call ourselves?
So, the question is, how do we support? How will I work with the Hispanic Americans, the Mexican Americans in Texas? Texas is now 41% Hispanic. But I'm also reminded, being here in Houston, this is a school district that has 145 different languages spoken. I was just on Vietnamese TV today. The only thing I understood in the interview was Beto will work. But I'm aware that this may very well be the largest Vietnamese-speaking population outside of Vietnam right now. So whether it's being on Vietnamese TV today, whether it's going on Jorge Ramos al Punto para discutir cada tema, incluyendo migración, pero también cuidado de salud, la necesidad de tener trabajo y tratar cada persona con dignidad y respeto. Así vamos a asegurar nuestras comunidades. No necesitamos un muro, no necesitamos mandar. Podemos hacerlo de una manera en que podemos tener orgullo. Listening and being with everyone, everywhere, in every single part of this state is fundamental to effectively representing those that I want to serve. And so you can count on me doing that. Whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Anglo, whether you're Vietnamese American, does not matter to me. No me importa. Yes, sir.
So someone that works in my office happens to have a PhD in computational math from Rice. Knew I was a supporter. And he asked me, he said, Jim, if I take off one day from work and just devote it to the Beto campaign, what's the most impactful thing I can do? So I'm asking.
Question was about registering voters, those who are deputized voter registrars. You're doing the necessary work for this campaign, and I'm grateful. There's another fact, though, that comes to mind when you ask this question. If only 1 out of every 9 Texans who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, so they're already registered. They just voted less than 2 years ago. But those 9 Texans who are unlikely to vote in a midterm election, just 1 of every Texan who votes in a presidential year but doesn't vote in a midterm, were actually to come out and vote in this election, we would win this walking away. It would not even be close. Now listen, the ones that you've contributed ensure that we stay on the airwaves from now until the 6th of November. That is important. And it is not a scary message. It's not about how bad Ted Cruz is. Don't even mention it. It's about our aspirations and our ambitions. But you may or may not see that TV ad. It may or may not sink in. You may not listen to the radio spot that we're broadcasting on your way home from work. If your friend is willing to knock on doors, that is an encounter that the recipient will never, ever forget. In this divided moment, in this very digital age where we always have a device in front of us, at a time when you never have to have an unguarded, inconvenient, uncomfortable conversation with another human being with whose conclusions you disagree. If you're willing to do that, it will be profound. It will make the difference in this campaign. And I know from history, when we were running for Congress in 2012, we were running against an 8-term incumbent who outspent us on the trail 5-1. So we made a virtue of a necessity and knocked on doors every single day for 9 months straight. I knocked on 16,000 doors myself. Our volunteers, family members knocked on tens of thousands more. I knew this was working 2 months out from the election. I went into breakfast on a Monday morning in a diner, and a guy comes up to me and he says, "You're Beto O'Rourke. You knocked on my grandmother's door on Thursday. She invited you in. She told you about her grandson who's in the Marines, told you about her daughter who is a school teacher. You listened, you learned about them, you asked some questions, you shared with her why you're running, and then you went and knocked on the other doors on that street." Well, that Sunday, just yesterday, I and 2 cousins showed up at her house for menudo, and she made each one of us promise to vote. So that is the way we do it. I really mean this. If you all are willing to do this work, there is nothing more powerful at this moment. This human-to-human connection, which is everything that this campaign is about. It's not about party. It's not about money. It's not about ideology. It's It's about listening to and being with people, bringing this country together, Texas leading the way. We have to do it through personal example. We've got to show up. So I'll take one more question from the back. Yeah, Cynthia's saying it's the last one. I love it. Thank you for doing that work. It's going to make the difference. Yes, sir. So the question's about early voting locations in Starr County, one of the counties along the border. When I talk about Abilene, another part of the state, I talk about it and it resonates with me because this is a place that Democrats have written off. They just stopped showing up to Abilene and to Throckmorton and to Coleman and to Baird and to Weatherford. And when Democrats stopped showing up, Republicans no longer had to. And so there's now literally no one to hold accountable. No one shows up and asks you what's on your mind, what your concerns are, what your ambitions are. By that same token, in South Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, Democrats are so reliably going to win in the November election. Republicans have stopped showing. And so Democrats don't show up to knock on your door and to listen to what's on your mind. That's why we keep going back to Starr County and to Webb County and to Harlingen and to Brownsville and to McAllen, time and time again, knocking on doors in the southernmost neighborhood in Brownsville, which is fittingly called Southmost. Knocking on those doors, listening to voters, and then reminding them that this election will be decided not on the 6th of November, but October 22nd, which is the first day of early voting. And there's an early voting location near them that they can go to at their convenience, regardless of where they live in the county. Why is this important? Because we know so many of our fellow Texans who are working 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to make ends meet. On the 6th of November, they don't have a half hour or 60 minutes or 90 minutes in some places to wait in line to vote. That voting time may be inconvenient for the job that they have. So we're working with local communities on those early voting locations, sharing that information with our future constituents in that area, the people who will decide the outcome of this election. And most importantly, we're showing up and continuing to show up. Last thing, growing up in El Paso, Texas, I grew up with an El Paso-sized chip on my shoulder. We're on I-10, just like you are in Houston, but we're 12 hours to the west in another time zone altogether. But it's this beautiful place that many of you may have never been to before. It's in the Chihuahuan Desert. It's at a base elevation of 4,000 feet. It's at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. It's connected with Ciudad Juarez, forming the largest binational community in the Americas, maybe in the world. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And guess what? El Paso, Texas is one of, if not the safest cities in the United States of America. No one ever showed up to El Paso to find that out from us, to see it for themselves. And we always felt that we were taken for granted, or we were written off, or we were forgotten altogether. We in this campaign have not made that mistake, and we will continue to show up. And you tonight have given us the resources to continue to do that. 59, 58 days to go until Election Day. 59 days to go until a wonderful hangover that we will all be feeling from celebrating this victory. Thank you all for making it.